Hey everybody, hope this finds you doing well. This is Networkchain. We're going to go ahead and jump right into it. As you can see, Bitcoin is currently trading at around $95,000. It's up about 5% over the past week. It actually reached up to nearly 98,000 over the past week. Now we're trying to see if it's going to hold in this mid $90,000 range before it maybe takes the next leg up towards 100,000. Obviously, that remains to be seen. We're still pretty much vacillating in that $90,000 range. So we could definitely take a leg back potentially. Obviously, there's a lot of factors that are involved in terms of how Bitcoin's volatility has been moving over the past several months, but we will continue to keep you posted as usual. Ethereum currently up nearly 8% at about $33,348. XRP is basically flat from this time last week. We have Solana up about 3% over $140 at 142. And then we have Dogecoin, the largest meme coin of them all, at around 13 cents. That's basically flat for the most part, almost 1% up over the past week. And then we have Cardano rounding out the top 10, currently trading at 39 cents. So if we take a quicker look at the Bitcoin chart, you can see this is the monthly chart here. We've basically kind of been in this range between, let's say, 78,000 all the way up to the all-time high, which was above 125,000. And now we're seeing that we've definitely, obviously, over the last several months, particularly the fourth quarter of 2025, Bitcoin definitely took a drastic drop down, and now we're trying to see if it can reclaim that $100,000 level. If we're able to do that and stay above that level, and that's going to be key, is even if we do touch 100,000, we could definitely still continue to come back down. This, for those technical traders out there, this is forming what could be a potential head and shoulders, where here is a shoulder, here is the head, and then this could be another shoulder. We could see more downside if this is an actual head and shoulders pattern that is developing. Now, typically the second year after the halving, Bitcoin has a down year. We already talked about this in one of our previous videos, given that last year was a negative return year, which has not followed the general cycle of Bitcoin. This year could be different. We believe that there's still a possibility that Bitcoin could reach back towards those all-time highs, but there definitely is likely going to be more volatility ahead, particularly given a lot of the geopolitical events that are happening all around the world that are affecting markets, not just Bitcoin, but also equities and commodities as well. And let's go ahead and just show here, if we look at the assets by market cap, you can see gold and silver are now 1 and 2, with gold nearly $32 trillion and silver at $5 trillion. There was a period of time when Bitcoin was actually above silver. So we're seeing that a lot of investors, given that fiat currencies are being inflated and debasing all around the world, that a lot of people are looking to hold value in commodities. And right now, those two commodities are gold and silver. They have definitely been on historic runs over in 2025, and it's continuing into 2026. So we will see if this will be a trend, or whether or not we'll start to see a distribution potentially going into Bitcoin, which is considered so-called digital gold. And obviously, with Bitcoin being at around $2 trillion, if it got even back to above silver, and with now silver being at 5 trillion, we can see that Bitcoin potentially has a double or more from here if it's able to get to that $5 trillion market cap. Obviously, that remains to be seen, but over time, there's a lot of speculators that believe that at some point in time, Bitcoin could get to that 5 trillion, maybe even 10 trillion mark and beyond. But obviously, time will tell. If we look at some of the other equities in the Mag 7, you see Nvidia is the largest company in the world at a $4.5 trillion market cap. And Google recently, for the first time, reached above 4 trillion. It's pulled back a little bit, but it did actually get to that $4 trillion mark. So we're seeing a rotation. Apple used to be the most valuable company in the world. Now we're seeing a rotation of the Mag 7 stocks. So there definitely could be a rotation when it comes to commodities over time. So we'll definitely keep you posted on what's happening there. The biggest news story, I would say, over the past week is the regulation regarding the Clarity Act. So we already had the passage of the Genius Act, which is legislation which basically governs stable coins and gave some framework and regulatory framework when it comes to the use of stable coins and those who are issuing stable coins, some of the rules that they need to abide by when it comes to issuing stable coins. But now we're coming to the Clarity Act, and this is a big legislation because it really has a broad way of covering crypto as a whole, and particularly when it comes to classifying crypto assets, whether a particular crypto would be classified as a security or whether a particular crypto would be classified as a commodity. For example, Bitcoin is considered a commodity, and then we can look at some of the other cryptocurrencies may be considered a security. So we found out this past week that Coinbase, which is the largest US cryptocurrency exchange, and their CEO, Brian Armstrong, came out last week and is against the current drafting of the Clarity Act. The Clarity Act actually was passed in the House and it went on to the Senate. And in order for a legislation to actually be in the books, it has to go through the House, it then has to go to the Senate, and then has to be signed by the president to go into law. As you can see here, January was going to be a landmark month for the crypto industry. The Senate was negotiating the finer details of the Clarity Act. As you can see, it's a major law that would finally enshrine the fundamental structure of how the crypto market could legally operate in the United States, what digital assets counted as securities versus commodities, what regulatory responsibilities companies had to abide by, what legal protections consumers could have. So those are obviously very broad ranging categories when it comes to the Clarity Act. So as you can imagine, there's a lot of details that come into having this type of act drafted and eventually voted upon and passed. And a lot of people in the crypto industry are concerned because with the potential of a change in Congress, with the midterm elections in the United States happening later on this year, there potentially could be a change. Right now it's Republican led. Potentially it could change over to the Democratic side, and if that happens, then a lot of people in the crypto industry are concerned as to whether or not something like the Clarity Act would be passed going into the next couple of years. And a lot of them would like to see some type of framework, some regulation, so they can move forward with their businesses here in the United States. And so a lot of people are really invested in what happens when it comes to this Clarity Act. And so some are not very happy with the CEO, Brian Armstrong, but he said we'd rather have no bill than a bad bill. And one of their concerns and their objections has to do with whether crypto owners would be able to earn interest or other rewards off holding stable coins. So just like if you have, money sitting in your bank account, you're able to get a certain interest rate, basically being able to receive funds off that money that's being held in the bank. So the same thing is available for stable coins as well. If you hold stable coins, you're able to receive an interest, you're able to receive a return for having your stable coins on Coinbase, for example. You can get a 3 to 4 to 5% interest depending on the market. So that's one of the things that they are very invested in with regards to this act. So it's going to be some time. They're going back to the drawing board with regards to coming up with some of the different amendments or details that need to be changed with regards to this act. So obviously we will see. Looks like, really, given the fact that the midterms are coming up at the end of this year, Congress and a lot of members of Congress are going to be looking towards campaigning, so they may be putting something like this on the back burner. So really there's probably only another few weeks to a month that Congress and Senate specifically has time to be able to flesh out this legislation. So we'll keep you posted once we learn a little bit more about what happens there. One quick other interesting news story, just to kind of continue to drive home the demand that is still coming into Bitcoin, into the cryptocurrency space. But we're seeing that Steak and Shake, they're actually a popular fast food chain, and they last year, it was around April, May or so of last year, they began accepting Bitcoin as payment for their food. And now we have learned that they have also decided to add Bitcoin to their balance sheet. So you can see here that Steak and Shake has added $10 million worth of Bitcoin to its corporate treasury 8 months after starting to accept BTC payments at all its U.S. locations. So we're seeing that this list continues to grow. Right now, this is just showing the top 100 Bitcoin treasury companies, but we see that over 1.1 million Bitcoin are being held on the balance sheet of various public companies on the U.S. open market. So once again, we also learned last week that BlackRock bought more as well to have on their balance sheet and to invest in Bitcoin and Ethereum. So we're still seeing a lot of companies and a lot of institutions. We even see that a state another state is looking to invest potentially in Bitcoin as well. So the demand keeps coming. So despite the volatility, despite where we are currently right now with Bitcoin, we're seeing that people are still piling in, and usually this is the time when you want to come in during this accumulation phase before we take that next leg up. As you can see here, for a lot of 2024, this was pretty much a accumulation phase in that $50,000 to $70,000 range. A lot of people were accumulating here, and then they were rewarded over the next year and a half or so, and they're still in the money from those investing in this range. So we believe that if you continue to, and if you choose to decide to invest in Bitcoin during this range, that at some point in time we could see the next leg up. Obviously it could be several months from now, it could be a year or two from now, who knows, we don't know. But at this point we are long-term investors, and that's how we're looking at it. But obviously everyone's investing journey is different, so make sure you do your own due diligence to make sure that you have an understanding of what you are investing in. As usual, make sure to keep up with us here on YouTube as well as on X and Instagram. Thank you so much for watching. We really appreciate it. We look forward to linking up with you soon on the network chain. In the meantime, take care. Bye-bye.